Hey, all, Tom Moran here from Tom's Big Spiders. Well, we're going to continue with my streak of rehousing and talking about quote-unquote beginner species. This one, we're going to be looking at Grammostola pulchripes, or the Chaco Golden Knee, one of my favorite all-time spiders. Just absolutely love this species. And as luck would have it, one of my students, Sam, actually purchased one of these about a year and a half ago, maybe a year ago or so. And he was incredibly proud of this kid. He originally showed some interest in spiders. He got big into it. Next thing I know, within a couple of weeks, he's talking about them using scientific names. He's able to name some things off. He was watching some videos, pointing some things out in other YouTube channels that he's like, this isn't safe, is it? It was very, very cool to see, because I've had other students, unfortunately, that picked things up, didn't listen to anything I said, and ended up with tragedies. We have one that's already killed 2 spiders. I'm not going to get into that one right now, but it isn't all good in that respect. So right now I'm batting 50-50 with students actually listening to my feedback. So Sam asked me, he said he's looking into getting, he's rehousing his soon. He's looking into getting a premium enclosure. He's eyeing tarantula cribs, which are beautiful enclosures. It's going to be his like big Christmas present. Really excited about it. So he asked me for some suggestions of what he should put his spider into. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to rehouse one of mine, my smallest. We're going to put her into a tarantula cribs enclosure because, as luck would have it, I already had one earmarked for the spider and planned on doing it this weekend anyway. So I'm like, this is perfect. I can kind of show you what you could put it in, and then we'll discuss a few of the other options. I'll give my opinion on them. Again, keep in mind, and I've said this many times, the enclosures, when it comes down to enclosures, yes, some of these things are expensive. It's what people want to pay for them. If somebody wants a really pretty enclosure that they've seen other people use, who cares? It's not impacting you, just as long as you recognize that the flip side, if somebody takes a Tupperware container or a Sterilite container and turns it into an appropriate enclosure for the spider, and it only costs them a couple bucks, that doesn't mean it's a worse enclosure. I've seen some of these really nice enclosures that people use that I think, quite frankly, are completely inappropriate for the species they have in it. And then I've heard people give people grief on the other side that they put them in, say, one of these food storage containers like these up here, and they go, ooh, what a waste. You got that spider in there. Why are you torturing that spider with that crappy enclosure? The spider, if it's set up correctly, the spider's not going to know any different. So it's less about what you actually put it into and more about whether that container is appropriate for that particular species. And I have enclosures on both ends of the spectrum. I have a lot of really cheap ones. I have more expensive ones. I kind of mix it up because I want folks to be aware of what's out there, and then they can make informed decisions and spend their money any way they wish. So if Sam wants a tarantula cribs enclosure, we're going to show some of the ones I think would work. So enough of me talking. Let's take a look at one of my favorite spiders ever, Grammostola pulchripes. All right, so we're about to rehouse a Grammostola pulchripes, or a Chaco Golden Knee, one of my favorite tarantula species of all time. I always joke about this, maybe my favorite. I don't know. It's hard to pin down. I've kept so many amazing spiders. Ophilipinus comes to mind as one I love. OBT, ones I love. I love my Cerberus. I love my Phormictopus. But there's just something about the Grammostola pulchripes that I really dig. And as evidenced by the fact that I currently have 3 of them. I was just telling Billy beforehand that I originally bought 2. Then I got sent 1 for a freebie. Then I accidentally got sent 1. I've grown all of them up. One of them was a mature male. I sent them off to pair. I don't know what ended up happening with them. I'm assuming it wasn't successful because I never heard back. But the other 3 I am keeping because I love them so much. And we're going to do something a little bit different today because, as I mentioned in the intro to this, one of my students who's been keeping now, I think for about a year and a half, he has a Grammostola pulchripes, was talking about he's getting ready to rehouse. He's looking for it to get a premium enclosure for Christmas. So we're going to go over some enclosure ideas for that because we want to encourage this type of stuff. So what we are looking at, what she was originally in here, and I think we put her in this one in December of 2022. This is one of the barbarous or reptile growth enclosures. It's the 8x8. I think they say 8x8x8. I think it's only like 7 inches tall or so. And that's what, 20.3 centimeters or 20 centimeters. And this worked out really well, except for the fact that she's actually molted 3 times while in this. And fun fact about the G pulchripes, at least from my experience with them, they take forever to get from a 1/3 of an inch, at least in my case. I've spoken to other people that have had better luck growing them up. But in my case, they took forever to get from like a 1/3 of an inch to an inch and a quarter or so. And then from that point on, they tend to molt more frequently, and they tend to put on more size with each molt. So I've had people go, oh, mine's a really fast grower. And I say, well, how big was it when you got it? And they're like 1.5 inches. That doesn't count because you didn't have to go through those early times where it takes forever for them to put on size. Now, my student, Sam, he's been telling me that his has actually been molting quite frequently, as has this one. I have the molt here. I'm probably going to try to sex it out later to see if I got a male. But they can, once they hit a certain point, put on decent growth. So keep that in mind. And then when I put her in this one here, there was plenty enough room. Now she's looking, this honestly could still work out fine for her. It was just, I want to get her into something a little bit bigger. I'm guessing the next molt will be probably, this will be a little bit too small. I will say that I had my big female and one of the big Arachnosis enclosures. She uses almost none of the real estate. So I give her a lot of room. She basically stays in the same spot. I was shocked this morning when I came up because she's been in the same spot for 3 weeks straight. I came up this morning and she moved to another spot. So they don't move all that much. They're not overly active. However, they will dig. They're bulldozers. And what you'll see here in this enclosure here, this is what we're going to put her into, is one of the tarantula crib enclosures. It is the 8 by 8 by 12 inch or 20 by 20 by 30.5 inch large slider crib pro. They sent me one of these. I love these. I have a bunch of these from different companies. Love this size for medium-sized spiders. And what we have here is my mix of cocoa fiber and peat with a little bit. I add vermiculite in here. Sometimes I add vermiculite to the moisture-dependent ones. This one is just a little bit in it. I've built a little starter burrow. We have a piece of cork bark. She can go in there if she wants. This is more for looks. This is dry. This is an arid species. They like it dry. When mine were tiny little slings, I always kept one corner of the substrate moist just in case. You can give a tiny little water dish or miss it. People have missed. I've never missed it with these guys, so I would not recommend missing them. But just keep a corner moist, but they're not going to want anything to do with it for the most part. And then some leaf litter for looks. Now, in a perfect world, she would go in here, make a little cave, and that would be her home base. I don't think it's going to happen. I think what's going to end up happening is she's going to dig all around here. They tend to dig, but they don't seem to be digging anywhere, if that makes sense. So some spiders, they'll go down, they'll dig huge burrows all around. They just keep digging, as you'll see if you look in here, all the different spots. This was originally, she at one point did hide under here. Then she filled it all in. She dug up here. Her water dish at one point was buried. I had to pull it out. This is an old water dish over here. So they're little bulldozers. And a lot of people report that, which is fun because for a while at least, they're always doing something. I have found that once they reach adulthood, that bulldozing behavior tends to stop, at least in the case of mine. Although now I think about it, I'm looking over here, she has done some digging. It's just not as much. So what we're going to do, first we're going to get her from point A to point B, and then we'll take a bit. Sam told me how large his spider is, talk about some of the options he has for his. Now, full disclosure, I normally wouldn't admit something like this, but I did the last time I rehoused this one. I do not, as a rule of thumb, handle my spiders. They don't get anything out of it. It's a safety risk where if a spider were to bolt or were to fall or were to bite me, I know my reaction is I'm going to flick it. That could end up with a dead spider. However, I will admit that this one was one of the ones that a couple of years ago, I was doing some maintenance in her enclosure and she calmly climbed out. It was almost like the Homeoma chilensis where they just climb out in your hand. She just climbed out in my hand and I had her in my hand for a little bit and it was adorable and I put her back in her cage. Did I need to do that? Absolutely not. I kind of let her do it, but normally I take a hands-off approach even with my tamest spiders. So I could probably just shoo her into my hand, take her and put her in here. But a lot of the people that watch Tom's Big Spiders are new to spiders. They don't know that although this spider may be tame, theirs may not be. They don't know, a lot of them don't even know the difference between New World spiders, which will flick urticating hairs, which are unpleasant, or Old World spiders, which use their speed and they have nasty venom. So somebody could see me doing this, go, oh, I have a Poecilotheria metallica. I'm going to go ahead and use my hand to rehouse that. And if you think I'm kidding, one of my other students picked up a spider at a pet store a year ago. She was talking about how she was holding it, how she was petting its butt, and it liked it. And then she showed me a picture of it. It was a juvenile Poecilotheria metallica. So people see it. She's like, oh, I didn't think they were any worse than bee stings. I've seen other people handle them. So that's the reason I do it this way. It's the safest way to do it. It's not that I'm scared of the spiders, and it doesn't stress out the spiders. Now, in this instance, I think what I'm going to try to do is lift this piece of cork bark out, carefully put it over here into the new enclosure. She was very calm last time, but if she should start to move around or freak out, we will obviously abandon course. And that's a big no. Done.
Oh,
so cute. I love this spider.
Cute.
There we go. I absolutely adore these spiders. I may leave this one in here just to see what she does. And the other thing is, heads up, we have the webbing here that she has webbed up a little bit. There is a thought out there that spiders leave, whether it be the urticating hairs or it be some type of pheromone, that there's something in the webbing that they recognize as their own. So a lot of people have noticed that when you move species, especially heavy webbing species, into new enclosures, if you put some of their webbing in with them, they gravitate toward that area, use it as a home base. And a lot of times, especially with the heavily webbing ones, they will end up webbing over that and kind of using that as ground zero to start webbing out. So we're going to leave that in there for now. I don't think she's going to tear this whole thing up anyway. So I don't think it'll be a big deal. And then we are going to grab this molt. I'm going to try to sex this one later because it looks like we have a great patch of abdominal skin in there. I think we might be looking at a male. I can't tell. No, that may be a lady. We'll get this under bright light later, but I don't think I have a toothpick up here. That looks like a lady right in there. I have to double check that that's the spermatheca right in there. I don't know if that's showing up. That little flap with those two little horns on it. Right in there. So it looks like I have another lady, which is fantastic, but I will double check because some of these species, I've had situations years ago. I did a video with, what was it? T. albipilosus, and the males actually have a little organ in there that kind of resembles the females. So there can be situations where people see that and go, oh, it's a lady, and it's not. So what we have here, obviously the 8x8 by 12 inch enclosure. You don't have the back of it. You can keep it on her for a minute. But what we're going to talk about is Sam's spider is, he said, about 2.5 inches. It's been growing really, really well. I think he got it at 1.5 inches, and it's molted like 4 times. Every time I turn around, he's telling me his molted, and I'm starting to get jealous. But I won't be jealous if it's a male. But then we may have a breeding opportunity in the future. So he was asking, what do you want? He wants to get a tarantula crib for Christmas. He has only one spider. That's a decent investment for somebody who only has one spider, isn't planning on getting more. However, he was asking about some of the sizes for it. So he had his eyes on, we're going to go through this for a second. I have one of these. It happens to be in the Tom's Big Spiders orange, which I love, but one of the tarantula cribs coffins. These are cool little enclosures. He was asking if this would be a good enclosure for it. And he was specifically eyeing the medium. And I told him they're great looking enclosures. Unfortunately, with the medium, would this work for a 2-inch spider? Yes, it absolutely would. Unfortunately, the next molt, it would be a little bit cramped. And after another molt, it would be very, very cramped. So for bang for your buck, I know Sam's probably going to buy this out of his own pocket. His mom's going to buy it for him. For bang for your buck, this might not last very long. So in other words, if he doesn't have any other spiders, it's not like he can go, all right, I'm going to put something else into it. This will be sitting on a shelf gathering dust, and I'll have to spend more money on another enclosure. Now they have the 14-inch model, I believe. It's like 14 inches. I believe the base is 7 by 7 inches. That could work, but there's a huge price jump. So just something to be aware of. And one of the things I, will point out, obviously mine, when it was around 2.5, 3 inches or so, I put into this here. It's the 8x8 by 8 enclosure. Tarantula Cribs does make an 8x8 by 8 tarantula cube, I think it's called. And that one is a decent price. That would be, if you have a 2-inch spider, that would probably hold that 2-inch spider for quite a while. Or you could jump up, if you want to do the tarantula cribs thing, and do this one here, which is going to give you more room. A 2-inch spider would not particularly be swimming in there. They are not ones I really worry about burrowing, to the point that would be the only concern I'd have is putting a 2-inch spider into something this large. If it burrowed all the way down to the bottom and sealed it up, you sometimes have that issue where they won't come up to eat. I don't think it would happen with this species. Something this size, talk about bang for your buck, you're going to spend a lot less than you would for the large coffin, and this one would hold it for quite some time. So you'd be able to keep the spider in. I'm guessing even with the way his has been molting, you'd probably be able to keep it in this enclosure for 3-4 years or so probably, which would, by that point, you could get another enclosure. You wouldn't feel too badly about it. Again, with the really nice enclosures, the trick is, if you don't have a larger collection, try to get something that's going to give them some room to grow. You don't want them swimming in it, but especially with an older species like this, give them a little bit of room to grow so they can spend some time there, so it makes it worth the money. I've done it before where I've bought a really nice enclosure, put a spider into it, and I've had the thing where it turns out mature male, it molts out male, and then it's only going to live in there for a couple more months to a year. Or a situation where I put a spider into it, it molts, and all of a sudden the enclosure is too small. I have a lot of other spiders, very easy to take it, clean it out, put another spider in, but for people that don't, that can be kind of a waste of money. So that would work, and then I will show this off here. Speaking of the barbarous growth enclosures, this is the one that I believe is 12 by 9, I think, by 7 or so. And this one would work for similar size to this one for a spider that size. You just have to make sure you put in a decent amount of substrate so it's not climbing. This one here will probably be the next one, Rehouse, because if we look in here, Billy wants to take a peek at her. I just like showing off my G. pulchripes. This one here is very, very faded. I love that she has kind of the gold. I don't know if it's showing, but her carapace almost had a gold look to it. But you can see that booty is fat. She's probably got a molt in her near future. And at that point, she'll be a good size. This one here is probably about 4.5, 5 inches. So she'll probably be about 5 1/4, 5.5 inches. So big girl, she'll be getting a rehousing soon. So you can look forward to that one. I will never get sick of rehousing G. pulchripes because I love showing them off. And you can see this one is as docile as the other ones are. So that's what you have out there to pick from. Any of those would work. Tarantula cribs are beautiful. And I think for somebody, Sam, who's shown that he is really into the hobby, really knows what he's talking about. He's done a lot of research. He busts out scientific names with me all the time when we're discussing spiders, which I find incredibly impressive because he was breaking out the scientific names after only researching for a couple weeks. So he's obviously really into the hobby, somebody that I think would do really well if he went on to get more spiders. So he asked a question. I figured we were already doing this one already, this rehousing. I already planned on putting her in here. This would be a great way to show it off. I think if you want a tarantula cribs one for the 2 inches, with the rate his has been growing, this would probably be what I would recommend. Just make sure you get that substrate depth in there. Play around. Put a couple, there's going to be some extra room. Put a couple different places it can hide. Oh, I wrote it myself on the purple pen. You can put a couple different places it can hide. Water dish. I will note about the water dish. I give all my spiders water dishes. I will give this one a water dish. I can guarantee you that water dish will end up somewhere over here or buried. They do it all the time. You can either just pluck them out, clean them, or drop a new one in, get it when you can. I know I rehoused one of these a while back, and I think I found she was in a little container. We found 5 water dishes buried in that thing when I went to dump it outside in the mulch pile. So not a big fan of the water dishes, but I have seen them drink before. They will drink on occasion, so you want to make sure they have that ability. All right, so that's Grammostola pulchripes. I'm not going to get huge into the care for these because I did a Grammostola pulchripes video a while back where I covered all the care on it. And if you go in and click the little tab that says videos, when you go on my main page and then search for G. pulchripes, you will see all the G. pulchripes videos I have, including some of the terrible older ones when these guys, this one here was probably like that. My other ones were little tiny guys, and you can kind of see them all the way through. But rather easy spider to raise up overall. Amazing spiders, very good looking. When these guys molt, that yellow really pops on the legs. My other female, after she molted, it was a beautiful gold. Sometimes you get some purple on the carapace. Beautiful spider. Normally very docile, but remember, temperament may vary from spider to spider. So that's why just because mine's docile and because this one walked out in my hand doesn't necessarily mean yours is the same way. So G. pulchripes. I kind of ended on a weird way. G. pulchripes, awesome spiders. There we go. I think I already said that, but yeah, this thing out, it's just going to be a weird way to end a video. So again, obviously any of these would work. Even the coffin, I want people coming on going, yeah, that coffin would work fine. It would work fine for a 2-inch spider. What I'm looking at though is a teenager who may not have the money just a year down the road to pick up another premium enclosure. So it's trying to get more bang for your buck. So that's why we went through the ones we did. Personally, I would lean more myself toward that 8x8x12 if I had only a couple spiders, because again, whatever you get, you want the spider to be in it for a few years so you get your money's worth out of it. You don't want a situation where, oh, the spider's molted 3 times, it's too big for the enclosure, and now I got to spend even more money. So whatever he picks, I'll let you guys know. He sounds like tarantula cribs is going to be it, so hopefully he picks one up, and maybe he'll send me some pictures of it. So in a future one, I can show you how the spider is doing. But I will say it's been great working with Sam. We're actually going to be starting an arachnid club, arachnid appreciation club at my school. It's something I've thought about doing many, many times. An opportunity came up. We're going to go for it. And hopefully Sam's going to be my right-hand man. We're getting other students interested because we don't want people there. They're just there to gawk or say, kill it with fire, because I have a funny feeling we're going to be seeing that. We want folks that are genuinely either already interested in spiders or open-minded enough to go to this and hear some facts about them, see some spiders, see some molts, and try to get a new generation of spider keepers. So I'll definitely keep people updated on how that goes. We're pretty excited about it. We'll probably have our own Instagram handle for it so we can kind of show what's going on, but that'll be something in the future. But obviously, love this species. Anybody that's looking for a great beginner species, again, this growth is very, very slow early on, but I found once they hit like the inch and a quarter seems to be the magic spot where you'll see a lot more growth, not only more molts, but more growth within the molt. So they'll put on more size and molt more frequently. So that will do it for this one. As always, if you liked it enough to subscribe, very much appreciate. Click the little circle up there. I'm going to put 2 more G. pulchripes videos over here. If you take the time to comment, I will take the time to respond. Just know it can take me a couple days, sometimes even a week to get around to them because I tend to be busy and I get a lot of comments. Guys, as always, stay safe. Catch you all next time.